Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Majlis with myself, Sahar Mushtaq, on Mira Business FM, where conversations connect and ideas come alive right at midday. Before we dive into today's discussion, don't forget that you can catch us live on Mira Business FM, streaming now on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and of course, Telegram. Our podcast is also available on all your favorite platforms anytime, anywhere. And joining me in the studio is Carolin Baumgartner again, who is the AI strategy consultant. And previously, Carolin shared amazing insights on AI and leadership. But today, we'll pivot slightly to focus on a different but equally important area: how professionals can navigate change, overcome setbacks, and rebuild confidence in their careers. Welcome to the show, Carolin. We're so happy to have you again with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Carolin, you know what? We all love celebrating success and the wins, and we talk about it all the time. But today, we would like to talk about it differently. So, why do you think failure isn't really talked about enough in the business world?
Because it doesn't feel good, right?
It doesn't, yeah.
Obviously, I think we are connecting our identity to failure and success, and it's been part of our society for so long. And I think there was just no culture of iteration, right? So we have not been taught to celebrate failure or to see it as part of the journey. We were celebrating our certificates, right? It's all about achievements, but we were never ever creating the transparency of what it takes to get there. And it just makes you uncomfortable. And I think we have a huge problem right now in people connecting their identity to the outcome and not to the journey. And I think that makes it so hard. And so that's why it's barely been talked about. I think we're getting there slowly. I think we are more and more talking about losing the fear of failure, not seeing it as failure. Maybe we just need to find another name for it.
All right, so it actually isn't a taboo as we talk about it.
Not anymore as it used to be in the past. I think especially because the startup scene is picking up. A lot of people are starting their own businesses. I think the problem that still exists is definitely the connection of your identity to the outcome. That's definitely still a problem, but I think we're addressing it more and more, that failure is just part of the journey. It's not really failure, it's you have to try, right? And you don't want to regret at some point not even trying. And I think because we have put so much focus on titles and achievements, we have forgotten to see and to celebrate people who push what they believe in. Because it's also very comfortable to stay in a title once you have a certain title and just stay there and not push for anything anymore. But I think we need to reshape that view, right? And say, okay, how can we put more value and celebrate the people who are actually fighting for what they believe in? And for that, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of reiterating and seeing what works, what doesn't work. It's not failure. It's just you have to figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
Is that failure? Not really, right?
And I think you've said it so well that, unless you don't try, you don't experiment, you don't know.
100%.
Exactly. So you have to take that very first step to start somewhere. And then failure is always something that should be not ignored, but at the same time, not something that we should celebrate, but we should know in our mind that something somewhere can go wrong.
100%. I think if you change your view on things, like for me, a title was never important. When I started working somewhere or in somewhere, it was never important for me to get a certain title. And maybe people interpret it as something like you're not ambitious enough or not pushing enough. But I always say we're in a matrix, right? And you need to decide where can you bring value. Certain people don't even want to go higher because what comes with the politics or whatsoever, or they don't want to manage teams. They're good in something else. They're good at being an expert and they want to go more to the depth, right? And I think
that only makes you get stuck.
Exactly.
At your career
because
level.
you kind of follow an expectation or what we think in society makes you successful. And there's a lot of pressure on people, right? And I think more even on men than on women is to how am I being accepted in a society? And I think we put a lot of effort into showing and how other people perceive us, right? Where I'm like, isn't it more important that you go out there to do what you're supposed to do and to push what you enjoy and what you're good at and make an impact right? For me, I respect people way more who go out there and they fight for what they believe in and they fight for something. You have a lot of people with a good title, but they're not fighting for anything. Why are we giving them more respect than people who are actually going out there and trying to push boundaries? And maybe what we see as failure over and over again, I think that deserves even more respect
It
than
does.
the title or what we see now in the
Because every
startup
time
scene.
you fail, you kind of like stand stronger.
Yes,
For
100%,
sure.
right? And it's not easy. It takes a lot of a strong personality to
Courage as
push
well.
through that and to pick yourself up again and s- not stop believing in yourself and your abilities. Like, I lost my startup, right? So, due to co-founder issues, and where it showed when your ego is connected so much to the product that you're building, and control and identity of a person is connected to control, that you can lose everything when you could have been successful. It's like in a marriage, right? You don't want to use the child to solve the issues or get control of the other person during a divorce or something, right? I think the same applies in anything in business and so on. And unfortunately, a lot of people use
So would you
control
say
and
it's having
ego.
the right kind of balance that plays the role here?
Yes, 100%. I mean, we all have
Okay.
ego and issues. It's not like that, but I think awareness helps, right? When you're in a situation like that and you lose everything, is it? I think it reshapes. It helps to identify what was it that made me me, right? Is it actually the output I'm creating, or is it something else, right? And I think we really define ourselves about what we're seeing, what's the output, how do other people perceive me,
Right.
and not what do I stand for, what are my values, what am I fighting for. If people would meet me, what would they remember about me?
Am I
That's
leaving
you.
an impact in the community with what I'm doing?
Exactly. So I think if you reverse that and you're like, instead of making everything external, my personality, and you connect more to yourself and to what impact do I want to make, right? I always say be a VIP in terms of like values, impact, and patterns of behavior. That is what you're supposed to be. Everything else, what you create during your lifetime, are just products, right? It's something.
Be
It's
a
not the end.
VIP. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And now moving on, when, things don't go as planned, it does happen all the time, no matter if it's a project, it's a new role, a new job, a company that you have made together with a partner or by yourself, things do go wrong at times. So,
Yeah.
what's usually the first emotional or practical hurdle people face when it comes to that?
I think you feel like you're losing a part of your identity, right? Because usually when you build a business, you're doing something, you emotionally connect to it. I think it's a normal thing. We all do it. I did it. And I think if you go into something like this and from the start you're saying this just something I'm touching, it's just something I'm bringing my energy to, but it is not reflecting who I am. It's just something that I'm trying, and I'm giving 100% to. I think this helps a lot. But if it happens anyway, it's just a matter of, I think, give yourself some time to grieve, right? And I gave myself that time. It's like, but have someone who holds you accountable,
So, it's very
right?
important to let it out of your system.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
But give yourself a time frame. Like, I'm always like, especially if we have too much time with our head, we get into this like, we feel like a victim, and then your head is, yeah, starting, you're getting caught up in your thoughts. So I usually tell a friend of mine, okay, give me a week, and after a week, you're allowed to kick me. Then I need to move. And it's always good to have a routine, like continue doing sports, but give yourself some time to grieve. It's important not to like push it away. I gave myself that time, and I was like, okay, I gave myself a deadline. So
So
then I'm
talk
gonna
it
start.
out is
Talk it
also,
out.
yeah.
Talk to people about it. You need to get it out, and it's okay. You're allowed to feel like a victim, right? For some time, but then what can you do? You need to get back up, right? And bring whatever you've learned through this experience to others. And what I also feel like helps a lot is, if you don't know what to do right now, help others. Go out and help. There are enough people who need help, your friends, business partners, whatsoever. Just contribute to something because it gives you value. You feel valuable. You feel like you're contributing to something. You're helping other people. And maybe through helping, you're seeing new opportunities, right?
Indeed, yeah. So it's just part of the process. Sometimes this is what we need to as well
Yeah.
realize that failure comes and goes.
It does. And it's
It
not,
does.
I think maybe we need to find another word for it. Maybe it's not failure. It's just like you're trying something, it's like an experiment. And either it works out or it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, it's just rerouting you to a new path, right? Not everything can go right all the time. That would be very weird if that happens in your life. I would say you always take the safe road and you probably never challenge something,
True.
right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that would be more
So
scary.
unless a hurdle really comes your way,
Yes,
you would know. Otherwise, if, it's all greens and roses,
exactly.
then where are you learning, right? And where are you growing? So now moving on, once someone hits that low point, moving to that. So the next challenge is getting back on their feet. So how do people begin rebuilding confidence or identity after a professional setback?
I think identity doesn't come from what you're building. Identity comes from who you are as a person. What are your values, right? I would always say, what's your North Star? And I think a lot of people are failing to address that. When I work with the students, usually the first thing is when they go into the market and prepare them is, what do you stand for? What's your North Star? What's your life mission and vision? And that's when no one usually has an answer because no one is challenging that, right? We come up with a 5-year plan, but it's not your life mission. I think define that. Maybe it was a wake-up call. Maybe you were running in a direction that you were not supposed to be on because it was not your flow and something was redirecting you, right? So maybe it's the time to sit down and say, okay, what are the life achievements? Like when I'm 80 years old and I want to look back at my life, which stories do I want to be able to tell? And I always said for myself, like, I want to have the craziest stories to tell. No matter if it was stupid, if it was a failure, whatever, but I want to have no regrets. I never want to look back and say, oh my God, I should have done that. I don't care if I look stupid
Because
to
life
other
is
people.
short. We need to take our chances.
Exactly. And I don't care what
And this is the moment to start somewhere.
100%. I
sure.
think too many people are afraid of what other people think about you, but I'm like, people are busy. They don't even think about you, right? And they will think something anyway. So,
True. And you can't really make everyone happy.
no, if you do, you're doing something
Exactly.
wrong.
Exactly.
Tell me the secret.
And sometimes when you have that kind of pressure, let's use parents an example.
Yeah.
So sometimes when they see their children growing up, they have the ideas of, them being doctors or engineers or pilots. But I think that's kind of like sometimes the approach which doesn't really help in the success, playing this part of success in your child's role
No,
part.
but I think there are two factors to it. First of all, it's a cultural thing, right? And in the past, there were just a certain kind of jobs out there. Now the whole market is changing, but it's also, I think, for the older generation, hard to grasp, right? And how fast it is now. Most of them are in retirement now. So for them to understand that there are high-paid jobs out there that look completely different, they don't understand. It's just a lack of transparency, right? And I think also as parents, you don't want your children to suffer. So you want them to go the safest way. I think it's just, it's like we don't want children to see, and I mean, I'm not a mother yet, but, I think that's a protection thing. You want them to be standing on their own feet. You don't want them to suffer. And I think these two things come together, but then you as a child or as a person need to learn to just push these boundaries, right? And say, okay, this is my path. I believe in it. But I think if you don't even know where you're going, you can never, ever even convince your parents that you're doing the right thing. If you know where you're going, if you know what your life mission is, and you're like, this is my path, these are my values, right? These are the things I'm great at, I want to make an impact in. I think then people get that energy and they believe in you, right? And they trust your decision making. But if you go with no plan, left and right,
No self-awareness
of course
whatsoever.
parents are getting scared,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
I think it's an energy transfer, right? And that's why I think the first thing is always sit down and map out your life mission. What do you stand for? Where do you want to make an impact? What do you want to fight for? If you go out, you talk to people, what will they remember when they had a conversation with you? Will they remember what you're fighting for and that they know where to support you, right?
And I think back in the days, there weren't even like as many research tools as we have now
No.
And of course, parents are not used to, of course, us chatting
No.
to even like, the AIs.
Yeah.
They might find it weird and risky at times, but that's the new thing in the new
And
age.
it's overwhelming, I get
It
that.
is.
I think, but
It
sometimes
is.
you need to cut out the noise and take a step back. Yeah.
Right. And now moving on, it's easy to mix up what we do with who we are. But do you think we sometimes attach too much of our self-worth to our job titles or ventures?
Yes, 100%. I don't believe in titles. And I think actually a lot of the startups and companies are going away from that, right? They're going away from titles. I think you cannot blame people because it's the past, right? The title was who you were in a society and how people saw you. I think now there's kind of a rebellion going on where that's not the case anymore. People are looking more in your value and the skills you're bringing to the table. And I think that's very important because if you constantly connect your value on your perception of yourself and give so much ownership to other people and to a title, that can be easily removed. I always say, if you have a price and someone can buy you for a certain amount of money, you're a slave, right? If you're connected to money, title, and so on, you're lost already. Because someone can take that away. You can be fired tomorrow. What happens then? Can you still go out and be happy? Someone can take your money away. You can lose money from one day to the next, right?
Of course.
Are you still able to go out there? Yes, because it's like, what do you stand for? What are your skills? These are all things, values, etc., that no one can take away from you. Your skill set, what you bring to the table. So I think we need to redirect that a lot and just like, okay, everything else is just an outcome. But I have met people who are not CEOs or general managers, and they bring way more value to the table than certain CEOs just because of it. So,
Goes hand in hand. And also, what role does the self-compassion play here?
I think a lot. I think a lot. I think we all, I think especially as women, we're very, very hard on ourselves if it comes to self-criticism. We are the masters of it. I mean, but everyone is dealing with it, right? And I think if you want to evolve and you want to grow, you need to learn to, forgive yourself, right? You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna hurt people by accident, hopefully, and not the intention always matters, right? So you're gonna have to forgive yourself making mistakes along the way because if you want to grow, you always have to re-enter new territory, right? Where you learn to navigate and you don't know yet how to navigate there. And you're gonna make mistakes, right? And certain people will be triggered by that. And it's a hard thing. Like I had to spend many years on that. I gave myself the hardest time when I was making mistakes. And I think it's just a matter of sitting with yourself and just being like, okay, it's fine. Like if I can forgive other people for a mistake, I can forgive myself.
So was it harder initially, but now you've come to terms with it over
It's
time?
ups and downs.
Okay.
I think you
So
have
it's
days where
never
it's better.
easy.
No, it's never. It's
Okay.
never. I think if you're a person who cares about the impact that you have on others, the harder it is to have self-compassion, right? And I think there are days where it's better and then days where I'm harder on myself. But I know it. I think the awareness helps.
As long as you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes a setback means that it's time to reinvent yourself as well. Have you
100%.
ever seen your certain failure make you reinvent something that you never even imagined of?
Yes, 100%. I mean, the situation I'm in right now, right? I had to walk away from a very, very bad situation and losing an entire company that I've built with my own hands. Um, and I think it helped that I built my identity apart from that over the last years. I think otherwise it would have been worse. But to see how many people are also there to support you when you're there and you have created the right relationships and put effort into good relationships and to again have the ability to be inspired again. Yes, I grieved through it and it still sucks and it still hurts. But I think I also saw the opportunity now to say, okay, but I can also sit down now and realign, like what worked for me before, what didn't, because I know my North Star, I know where I want to go. What part of that was for me, what wasn't, what can I let go, and where can I rebuild? And now I have the opportunity to start from a blank page, right? And you can either see the glass half full or half empty. You know, like how many times in life do you opportunity to start from a blank page? It's not ideal. It's a lot of work and it sucks and it hurts, but it's also an immense opportunity, right? And you can go. And I think I went out there and saw how can I help others, have a lot of conversations with people, get inspired, you know, where do people need help, where I can bring in my value. Yes, and then new things will come out of that.
So it only always inspires you to head to your new journey and makes you a better person, I
I think
guess.
sometimes things need to burn
Or a
down.
better professional, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. I think sometimes, you know, good things can come out of ash. So, like,
Well said. And now, what are small, practical steps listeners can take to stay resilient in uncertain times? Because, you know, like trends change all the time,
yeah,
markets are always up and down. So, how is it that they can feel safe in a way trying new things?
I think the North Star is one because I say it with everything, and I think everyone says that even now when you go into building a startup or business is what's your why? And your North Star of your life is your why. Why are you doing things? With everything in life that you're doing, do you know what you're going to say yes or no to? Because this is why so many people have issues in taking decisions because they don't know their why in life, right? So if you know your why, it will be easy for you to say yes or no to opportunities or decisions, right? Because you know it's going to feed into my goals or not. It's part of my value system or not, right? And I think that's will be your fuel because no matter how many times someone's going to knock you down,
So, we're again
you're going to be
coming back
like
to self awareness.
100%, but definitely the North Star because it's going to be your fuel. You need a fuel. If you don't have your fuel, if you don't know why, that's why so many people give up when they build a startup or a business because at some point, if it was just about the money, what are you going to do if something doesn't work out? What's going to give you the drive? Because you need to have a lot of faith in your belief system and into your why to be able to continue when times are tough. And if you don't know why you're here and why you're doing it, that will be tough. And I think this is building resilience. Like when you're so passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't matter what knocks you down. It doesn't matter who says yes or no or whatever, because you know exactly where you're going. You're like, okay, fine, this didn't work. Now I try the next. But I know where I'm heading. And I think this is when you just have your tunnel vision and it doesn't
Right.
matter, right?
So, you have to have a purpose.
You
That
do,
goes without saying. That's
100%.
what I actually got as a takeaway from what you said. And now the word changes fast, as we know. So, even compared to, let's say, 5 to 10 years ago, how important is adaptability today as compared to years ago?
I mean, it's a lot more important now, right? Because times are so fast. So I think rigid personalities will have a hard time um, in the upcoming years because we will have so much change coming our ways, right? We need to reinvent our careers. We need to reinvent what made us successful in the past, right? Um, I think the most successful people will be flexible personalities, people who can learn fast, people who have a flexible mindset of adapting to others, their environment, and to change. And obviously, with the speed that we have right now, it will just become worse.
Right. And then do you think that we need to redefine how we actually view the risk and we approach it? The experimentation part, again, plays a role, I know. But what do you think about it? How should be the
Yeah,
approach with
100%. I think the
regards to
question is
this?
not if you take risk, you need to take risk. If you want to go somewhere, let's say you have your North Star, you will have to take a risk, right? Because you might have to enter a territory that you know nothing about, right? So it's not about if you take risk. Yes, you need to take risks, right? But what does it mean? I think what we need to ask more is what will happen or what is the risk about, right? If it's human life, okay, maybe don't go down that road, right? So I think it's more about the outcome behind that risk, the possible outcome behind that risk, not if. We definitely have to take risks, right? And that I think there's a lot of to see. It's not about yes or no. It's more about the
Knowing that it's going to reshape you,
exactly,
remodel you into something even better.
exactly. Just ask more like what's behind it. What is the risk? Like if I don't do it, what is the risk? If I do it, what is the risk? If the risk is way too high, like I said, human life or whatever, obviously that then is probably no, I wouldn't take that risk.
A big
right?
no, of course.
Exactly. So I think it's not if take the risk or not. It's more about what's behind that and then evaluate it, right?
Right. And so, one final thing before we close today. So, if a listener is going through a setback right now,
Yeah.
they're either watching us or listening us. So, what would you want them to remember?
It's okay to feel shitty. We all cry. We all have to go through it, get some popcorn, give yourself time to grieve, and just accept that you're not the only one. I think when it happens to us, we always think we're the only ones that it happens to, but it's not the case. There are a lot of people out there. Maybe find other people who have been through it, especially if in business, like go to founder groups, whatsoever, talk it out there. And it helps to see that you're not the only one who's been through it. A lot of people are going through a lot of shit. And I would always say it's like grieve it out, but
Learn from your mistakes.
learn from it. Write down what did you learn out of it. What would you not continue? What do you want to let go? Right? Maybe there were parts of it, as I said, that didn't fit where you're going. Could be people. It could be that whatever business you're working on or something or career actually is not a fit for you anymore. Right? Write that down. Shape your North Star. And I always feel like people struggle to do that. Use the VIP method. I kind of came up with that for myself is what are your values? Where do you think you can create value? Yeah, these two things. It's very important. What are you willing to accept in your life? What not? What behavior do you want from other people, etc.? Where do you think you're bringing value? Where do you make an impact, right, on a daily basis? Where do you think when I go somewhere or help people, where can I create impact, right? Write that down. And then on the patterns of behavior, as basically, where do I go? Like, what feels natural to me, right? Where I'm usually drawn to. How do I behave with my friends, with my family, with my with the people around,
yeah.
surroundings, and where do I usually go to then to create an impact or to create value? Like identify these kind of patterns. And I think if you overlap these three, that would definitely help you to create some kind of North Star and get you going and just have a routine and what it is, sports, that were just to create that.
And
get out of your
understand
mind.
this is not the end of the world.
It's
Redo,
not, it just sucks.
rebuild. Yeah, yeah. So it's about learning from the mistakes and, of course, redoing it
Yeah,
in a better way and progressing with it.
100%.
Right? Thank you so much, Carolin, for being back on the show.
Yeah, thank you
It
for
was
having me.
lovely to have you on Midday Majlis talk about this different topic today. And I think we will come back to the AI next time when we sit together. I really value your time.
Yeah.
And looking forward to having you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be here.
You're welcome. So, with every setback, there is an opportunity to learn, grow, and even reinvent ourselves. And that brings us to the end of our first segment with Carolin Baumgartner on Midday Majlis. A big shout out to the Morning Drive with Tim Elliott, your go-to show for the latest in UAE businesses, startups, techs, and of course the global headlines. Do not miss it. Weekdays from 8 in the morning until noon. You can also catch each and every one of their episodes on YouTube and, of course, on your favorite podcast platforms. This is Midday Majlis on Mirror Business FM.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.